Welcome back for another book review. Today we are talking about this one. So I've looked this up. Based on Google, it is pronounced house. From what I could find, it is a German-based word, and what Google Translate says is that in German and in English, it is pronounced house, even though it is spelled what I would think is that like Haus? But no, it's theoretically pronounced house. If I've got it wrong, I tried. Anyways, we have HausMagick. Transform your home with witchcraft by Erica Feldman, and her tag is House Witch. So I've read a few of the other reviews on this. Honestly, it didn't come across this way to me, but it is something to keep in mind. So the author, the company of House Witch is her company. It is a shop, it sounds like, out in Salem. The Salem, because I swear every state has a Salem, but Salem, Massachusetts. And some people felt like this book was just a marketing strategy of like just promoting her shop. I didn't feel like that personally, but that is something to keep in mind. All of the pictures are her own, which is a good and a bad thing. And that was another thing people complained about, is it gives one aesthetic and that's it. And like, as somebody who that isn't mine, like it is a little like, because it's a very specific style. It's not quite minimalist, but kind of, and is definitely not like on a budget, to say the least. Because like all of the furniture like matches. It's not thrifted. It's not collected over like 20 years. Like it's very modern, kind of like, I guess maybe like chic. Like it's an aesthetic. If like, when you look at the pictures in here, because there is a lot. Like this is just not my style. Burning Passion, I fucking hate white walls. It is my nemesis. I think it has something to do with the amount of times I was in a hospital as a kid and like all the rooms were white constantly, but like to me it feels like you're in a jail cell. Like it's so boring, it just makes me uncomfy. I hate white walls, so like this aesthetic just isn't for me. Which again, not necessarily a bad thing. Like they're pretty pictures, don't get me wrong. I am really proud that like the author, which I'm pretty sure this is her throughout, like I do like it, but again, this just white on white on white, no. So it would have been nice to have different aesthetics. Like her other witchy friends include pictures of their houses as like examples, because this is a very picture heavy book. And like, again, sometimes I can't stand how many, like the last book I talked about, the Green Witch book, way too many pictures. This one, it actually kind of fit, because a lot of this book is talking about making your aesthetic and like working on your house as like an interior design plus some witchcraft. And like, obviously you're gonna need pictures for that. So again, sometimes pictures work, honestly. There was some in the back that was like truly my favorite. We got a few of this little guy. He's a one-eared cat and it's the best and it's so cute. And like there's good pictures, like it's very aesthetically pleasing. It is just absolutely not my style at all, but like fantastic pictures in here. The exercises are pretty, you know, whatever. You know, it's very kind of more new age-ish, and like that's fine. Like it's very heavily based on like vibes and visualization and stuff like that. Some people don't like that. Honestly, I feel like the Venn diagram of New Age, Wicca, witchcraft, pagan has its own Venn diagrams going on. Like all of them, it's not a huge diagram. Like there's a lot in that middle section. But that was another thing people complained about. Personally, I was like, whatever. Like you don't need to do very elaborate stuff to like magically deal with your house. And a lot of it is kind of practical. Some of the things, again, other people were like really upset about. For example, they said that it gave the same vibes as the like influencers that tell you to like use essential oils and like ingest them because you're using stone elixirs. It's a hard word to say. And personally, I don't think those are in the same category. Eating essential oils and putting a rock in water, like if you clean the rock, honestly, I don't think it's gonna kill you. Like, I'm pretty sure you'll be fine so long as you check that it's not like a water-soluble one. It's fine. There are literally like ice cubes made out of rocks that people will use in fancy whiskey glasses. Like, I just barely bought one for my husband for his 30th birthday. Like, you just freeze a rock and it goes in a glass very carefully. And so it's like, to me, it's not a huge deal. Is it something I do personally? Absolutely not. I'm not a huge fan of it. But I don't think, like, okay, so a lot of people in the reviews were not seeming to be in the community at all. And so if you're coming at this not as like a practitioner of magic in any form, probably not for you. I don't know why you would pick a book like this if you're not into like witchery. Like, that's kind of on you, because it literally talks about like traditional witchcraft, tarot, crystal healing, energy clearing, astrology. Like, what gave you the impression this wasn't gonna be a little woo? So like, honestly, if stone elixirs bother you, like, there's other methods to do it. Like, seriously, you just create a crystal grid around whatever container. Some are adamant that plastic is like the worst thing ever and your magic's not gonna work. Same vibe as the traditionals who say that you can't have any metal in your magic. Like, if your altar table has metal, it's gonna mess up all of your spells, which is like, no. We can use metal, it's fine. Kind of the same vibe, I feel like, with a lot of plastic use. And so, like, I will happily use my colorful plastic water bottle, and I have zero problem creating a crystal grid and putting that in the center versus finding some glass jar to stick instead. So, like, there was other stuff that people were complaining about. She talks about how, like, to go about, like, from cultural appropriation to cultural appreciation. Some people really got on her about that. Again, like, could it have been a little bit bigger of a point? Probably. Could we have mentioned some, like, different options? Probably. Is it, like, really bad? I don't think so. She talks about how smudging is a specific ritual, but a lot of people will use sage. And it's not saying white sage, and there's a lot of variations of sage. I don't know. I've tried to Google this before. Maybe Google has added the information since I last looked. I don't know. So for my plant peeps that know stuff, I don't know if sagebrush is in the sage family or if it just happens to be in the same title. I don't know, but that is a plant here that if I'm gonna use sage as a general term, I would totally use sagebrush. It's one of my favorite plants. It smells phenomenal. And like, you can have garden sage. Like, you could grow your own sage plant and use that. And like kitchen, you know, like the dried kitchen sage you could use. So like, I know obviously she's talking about like the bundles that we see at every store, but I don't know if that's like the thing to be like so uppity about when she just says sage and not white sage and not using the word smudging. I don't know. Again, mostly to me, this book was just like, it wasn't like revolutionary by any means. Most of the stuff I was kind of like, like, it's interesting. It's just kind of apparent that like our taste of existence isn't quite the same, other than the idea of like going to a room and like feel the vibe. And like, I kind of get it. Some people really got, like, I was reading a lot of the reviews because honestly, I didn't have like a huge like reaction one way or the other. It was like, it's not really for me. Like, of the HausMagick books I've read, not my favorite, it's not my style. And like, some of her spell methods aren't really what I would do personally. And like, the techniques I felt like I would use more of like Penzak style over hers. But like, not a huge deal. Just not like for me. But like, I could easily see this working for other people. Not a problem. And yet, some of the reviews were just like harping on her methods. Like, in one part later in the book, she talks about how she had one room that like, no matter what they did, it just didn't match. Like, her and her wife would go and they like wanted this, like, this room just felt awful. Like, I think they had it as a storage room one time, guest room, and like, no matter what they did, no matter what they painted it, nothing seemed to like lighten up this room. It overlooks like the trash area at their apartment thing, and she's just like, I don't know what to do with the space. And then she called a like kind of, I think it was a clairvoyant, one of the clairs, a psychic, of her friends to like astral project in and like energetically check in and be like, what do I need to do? And the person that she had talked to was like, yeah, this room wants to be dark. Stop fighting it. Like, embrace the dark. Like, embrace dark colors and make it a cozy space in darkness, not in light. And like, he was like, do you have like a yellow like bookcase? And she's like, yeah, get rid of that. And I'm like, I mean, first of all, yes, dark all the way. But a yellow bookcase was like, yeah, that's gonna be not for me. But I could see why, like, for me, like, to me, that was like, yeah, totally. Like, I could easily see how you might need an outside perspective, another witchy perspective, to see what energetically you might want to do. And again, people are dissing on this and are like, oh my god, it's so bad. But it's like, dude, you're entering into the woo-woo space. Why are you upset to find the woo in the woo-woo space? That's what we're here for. Like, whether it's witchcraft, reconstruction, Wicca, pagan, like whatever, new age, occult, whatever, like, we're all a little on the woo-woo spectrum. Depending on how you want to look at that spectrum, it still exists if you compare from normal to what we do. It's a spectrum of crazy that outsiders are gonna be like, what are you doing? And so, like, most of the, like, negative reviews were from people not in the community. And so I feel kind of bad for the author that, like, so much of her book hate is coming from people outside of the community. And, like, it's not a beginner book. Like, it's not destined to, like, intro you to everything. It just explains what you need in the context of what she's talking about. Like, she doesn't talk about all of the crystals. She talks about the ones specific to what she's talking about. I love that. Like, again, not my personal style, but there was stuff that I liked in this book. And, like, it's very pleasing. A lot of people were like, this is just a coffee table book. And I'm like, okay, and? Like, sometimes they're fun to read. I have a few of those that are supposed to be just like you toss on the table before we had phones that you would, like, leave in the bathroom that people would read through. Like, those books that aren't, like, terribly serious, they're just kind of chill reads. I don't hate those. And, like, honestly, it's not a bad book. Like, I don't know why it's got so much hate. Is it revolutionary? Is it my personal favorite? No. But I don't think it was, like, really deserving of the amount of hate that it was getting. Again, not revolutionary, but the author does a good job. I liked her writing style. I felt like the way the information was presented was fun. It was a healthy mix of, like, her experiences and, like, telling you what to do. Not, like, telling you what to do, but, like, you know, giving you ideas and stuff. Like, I thought it was a good book. I don't know that I would personally go out and buy it, but, like, I'm not mad about reading it, and I got to see a cute cat, so, like, honestly, I feel like it was worth it. I feel like it was fine. Like, look at this. Look at that. Totally, absolutely deserved a full page. Both sides? Absolutely. Again, if you watched the last book review, I was complaining about all of the pictures. But, like, look, we've got, like, a lot of full pages of text in here. Like, there is a lot of information. This actually had some substance to it. It wasn't just pictures. Again, not necessarily my style, but otherwise, like, it's a decent read if you're into, like, trying to feng shui your space, you're wanting just a different variation of some house magic. Again, comparing this to, like, the, what was it? I always get the name wrong. It's like Hearth and Home Witchcraft by Jenny Blonde. Like, different takes entirely, but, like, it gives you a good, like, reference point to go back to and figure out what's gonna work for you, because your magic's gonna be unique to you unless you're in a specific coven. But, like, for the most part, I think even then you probably could expand a little bit and at least see how other people do it. So anyways, overall, I'm not, like, completely like, oh my god, you gotta go buy this book, but, like, if you happen to find it at, like, a library or, like, a thrift store or something, like, it's not a bad book to flip through and read, and it might really fit your fancy. Again, like, aesthetics just didn't really match for me, but that's okay. I think other people could really like this. I don't think it really was deserving of the amount of hate this book was getting. So anyways, I'd love to hear your thoughts on this one in the comments down below. Huge thank you to my patrons. I'll have their names over here. If you'd like to support me and get access to exclusive content, it is patreon.com/nightwillowcrafts. Make sure to like and subscribe. I post every single day, and I also have a book if you want to check it out. It is always linked in my blog down below. Until next time, thank you so much for watching, and blessed be.